Welcome to Season 4 of Call of Cthulhu. This time around, we'll be in New York City in 1982. I was in high school, so I don't remember way too much of it. So some things will be wrong. Like every once in a while, someone might decide, I am going to fire this laser pistol at my opponent. And someone's going to probably say, hey, you know, that laser pistol wasn't invented until 1987. So please forgive us. We're looking forward to that. We love it when our users engage us with like detailed facts. That's what made Star Trek the show that it is today, and it will make us the channel that you will want to watch in 25 years with your children.
I forgot Star Trek is still on the air.
Yes. Oh, gosh, that series will not go away.
No, never mind.
All right, so yes. Oh, I see. I totally missed it. All right, so this is session 0. So we're going to do a quick introduction for everyone, and then we're going to start with some in-game bookkeeping things that will establish the scenario. And then we're going to cover why we are all gathered here and how you guys are all together in one group. For those of you who have watched our previous seasons, you will know that we do a slow burn towards the great reveal of what's happening behind the scenes. This go around, we're going to be a little bit more aggressive. We're going to start off our game with our players already pretty much involved with the odd goings on in the world. This may also mean that the table will become more sparse earlier in the game. Some of our folks might be able to go home early, or you won't see them again. Who knows? Some of you might be able to suggest that we kill people early, and we will do so because we love our audience and want them to get what they want. So we'll see. We'll take a poll at the beginning to see who wants to be killed, who amongst you wants those here at the table killed first.
I don't know what you think the release schedule is going to be like.
Vote on your phones now.
Yeah, by the time people are voting,
we're live tweeting this
Olsen
right now.
does not believe that James Lee has played this game long enough that time doesn't matter to him anymore.
Oh, okay.
He gets tweets from
We
the
daily
future.
vlog these.
You would be surprised.
Yeah.
I'm a lot older than you people watching this think I am. All right, so let's go around and have everyone introduce their characters and what their shtick is. You may share just as much as you're comfortable with, but please give enough information that we know something about you. Would you like to start, Amber, since you are right here and you made eye contact first?
All right, my name is Danielle Steele. I am 42. I just got out of rehab from that my rich Manhattan family put me through. From rehab, we'll start where I'm at and go backwards. I went to India and spent time in the drug cartel, and I am an ex-famous groupie, and my failed marriage still haunts me to this day.
You've probably heard of me, peasant.
To clarify, what was your role in the cartel?
I was just a meat sack.
Okay, fair enough.
I was I went originally to India to model, and then it sort of trailed off from there as I got more into the modeling industry and more into the drug industry.
Okay, fair enough. Because sometimes people go, oh, I was in the cartel. I was like, well, what did you do? It's like, oh, I owned it. It's like, oh, okay, that's a whole different direction.
No, I modeled for the cartel.
I
was in the ads.
I was part of their viral ad campaign.
It was in marketing.
Is the cartel? Is it for you?
I made the logo.
Yeah. I'm on every piece of LSD that they make.
You know that ad? Do it. Just do it.
Just
Yeah.
do it. Enjoy.
I started.
Cocaine. Just do it.
You want to look like me? Do drugs,
Oh, it's like the
kids.
milk mustache thing. It's this little white. It's like,
Yes.
nice.
Hooray!
And with that, let's move on to James.
All right. I'm playing Arlo Vincent. He is a transplant from Maine. Moved out to New York City for college, and he's a painter. College dropout, pretty okay painter. He just kind of bums around the city a bit, moving from weird party to weird party. That's about it.
When James first submitted his character idea to me, it was known that he was from China, Maine. and for 2 weeks I thought his character was from China, and I thought he was going to speak Mandarin during the course of the game.
That would have been impressive.
Yes, I was like, wow, this is going to be very exciting.
Are you gonna out accent me?
And while fluent in Mandarin, he will not be.
If I was fluent in Mandarin, that would be the only way I would speak Mandarin on the
不
show.
怕他不说广东话. All right, and next.
You got him.
Yeah, my character.
That was a sick burn.
Ooh. Spicy one.
对不起.
So my character, her name is Jude Levine. That is her chosen name. Her given name is Judith Cassop. She was born into a cult called the Cult of the Omniscient Andromedan Messiah, or the Ohm, in the Adirondack Mountains of New York. The leader of the cult was named David Cassop, and that's why she has their last name, because everyone born in the cult got their last name. She managed to escape from the cult, which in her escape resulted in a large fire that destroyed everything there. Since then, she has moved to the city and got into acting off of the sort of like media stardom she got of being like, oh, the girl who escaped the compound, and like doing like the media circuit and stuff like that. So she's trying to transition into more mature roles. Outside of like the sort of like ingenue and damsel in distress stuff that she's done. So yeah.
I'm very excited about how the interpretation of more mature roles is going to
Yeah.
play out as the game
We'll
progresses.
see. We'll see. Yeah, no, I'm leaving it open-ended.
That may
How
that
much
may
blood would you say is in a mature role?
That may well depend on how Will plays his character out in the next
Exactly.
couple.
Oh,
of
you'll be my muse.
Now if Arlo gets to her first.
I don't kill people. Why are we already off on this?
I'm not really sure that that's the case, but we'll find that out in the next month or
I
so.
do kill people.
Nick.
All right. My name is Robert Quigley. My parents died working on a secret government project, or so I was told, and I found evidence that these types of occurrences had been happening for decades, and that sent him kind of down a rabbit hole of being an eccentric anti-government conspiracy theorist. And in the 80s, it was hard to get reliable sources, so he believes a lot of things that reaffirm his beliefs.
Not too different than today.
Yeah.
He has a subscription
exactly.
to both Time and Life magazines.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's all over the 80s Twitter.
But he really trusts the Inquirer.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Get points back on your
The
Discover
Daily
card.
Caller.
Well, I mean, the only particular authors in the Inquirer, like only a few of them actually know what's going on. Because it's bunk.
So do you believe in stuff like Batboy?
That boy was pretty big.
Batboy
Yeah,
was
I
By the
Yeah, I think
1980s,
so.
we're pretty sure Bad Boy is not a real thing.
Okay.
He can't be
What?
a boy for that long.
Leonard
He's
Nimoy's
gonna be
in search
Batman.
of told us that he had not found Bad Boy.
Okay, but Lobster Boy, definitely.
He's
real.
gonna grow up and become Batman.
Look, there have been enough government experiments gone awry. These are no doubt true in some form or fashion.
And just so that our audience sort of understands how not synchronous this is, what did your parents do?
I had my dad was a government contractor building like a large scale infrastructure, and my mother was a psychoanalyst, and so it was like
Working
like
on
part-
building access to psychotherapy for the
Yes,
poor
for the
and
poor.
disaffected.
and so part of the crazy part was that he was informed of their like tragic death via accident, like exactly 1 year after they left to work on the project, and it didn't really make any sense that they would both be working on the same project because their things have nothing to do with each other.
Yep.
And over time, after his investigation, he began to find what he thought were listening devices in his home, but he kept losing track of them, and people didn't believe what he was telling them, and he's absolutely certain he's under some sort of form of surveillance.
And these listening devices he's been finding
Mhm.
are like weird balls of wires. They're more like lint than they are actual technological devices.
Yeah, he's just seen like
Yeah.
really
Well, like
crappy
no one would know
electrician
what
work.
they
Wait,
look like.
it's just like bound up earbuds.
Yeah.
Well, actually, like to him, they look like really
Tangled.
sophisticated, like blinking things.
Yes.
And he hasn't even actually successfully shown anyone else
Right.
because he's certain that they're either being stolen away from where he's like collecting them, or that they're somehow else being.
Every
like,
time he's collected one to
bless
try to
your
like
heart.
keep track of it or
It
show it to anyone,
disappears.
it's gone.
Yeah.
Oh.
He may or may not have a giant ball of lint somewhere on there.
I'm just imagining you have like a shoebox that just says listening devices on it. And it's just full of like random
Of
wires
human
and garbage.
hair.
Yeah.
And donated to a
Uh-huh.
pod.
Yeah.
Well, over time, I've found through trial and error this certain things which will conceal me from those signals.
Yeah. Okay.
But specific to my biometrics.
Very good.
Okay, well.
Okay. So my character's name is Desmond Castle. He's 35 years old, originally from Lexington, Kentucky, but he now lives in Hollywood, California, and he is a film director, but not just any film director. He is the infamous film director of the controversial film from the 70s, The Drifters. And if anybody watched season 1, which, I mean, why would you be watching season 4 if you haven't already seen season 1? Go watch season 1 again
You can kind of jump around.
and go like the videos again.
Man, it's all there.
James
You just have to
Olsen's
find it.
yeah, James Olsen's character was obsessed with the movie The Drifters and was very excited because the film was filmed in Castle Prasovia.
Yep.
And so that's where I filmed my movie. It was a big success, very good, but not without its own controversy because a lot of the people who were on the cast and crew did not make it home. And that sparked a lot of debate about whether or not the things in the movie were, fictitious. So we can leave it at that at the moment, but I am in the middle of trying to fundraise so that I can make my new movie. And that's why I'm in New York.
It should be noted that Desmond Castle is the only person from the film The Drifters who is still alive and not missing.
I don't know why. Oh well.
The rest of them just kind of drifted away.
Yeah, we called it The Drifters.
It's better not to linger on these things.
I mean, it's not my job to keep up with what they're doing in their lives.
They drift in
They-
and out of the movie business.
They probably fell in love deeply with Eastern European culture and wanted to stay there and immerse themselves even more than any of us could have imagined.
As you might remember from season 1, Brasovia is a beautiful and inviting nation.
I can vouch for that. It was very beautiful.
Brought to you by the Tourism Board of Brasovia.
The other interesting thing to point out is that in 1992, Castle releases his book "If I Did It," and that's
it's like if I filmed it.
Did I? If I filmed it.
The man in the high castle.
By the way, I used to religiously watch this TV show called Castle, and
Mhm.
every time I look at your story, I keep thinking, wait a minute, was that his actual name? Did you just completely rip his
Okay,
name?
well, so I'll give a little bit more. My character's original name was Desmond Radcliffe. Because he's from Lexington, Kentucky, he wanted to assume a better name for himself in Hollywood, try to distance himself a little bit from that past. I mean, the only thing that would tie him would be his thick accent. Staple of Call of Cthulhu. Gotta have a thick accent. Gotta do it badly. Gotta do a piss poor job with an accent. So
Well, you
Look,
do
there's
great.
always that 15% of our viewer base who loves him.
That's right.
no.
And we got
his
50%
accents
of
are
our
great.
You
representation.
could be like Nicolas Cage in Con Air, whose accent varied significantly throughout the course of the
put
film.
the bunny in the butt.
All right, and finally,
And-
Phillip Olsen, who is not related to James Olsen, whose last name is actually spelled differently.
That
than
we
his.
It's
know
spelled.
of.
It's spelled the right way. No.
Even more threads connected.
It's all connected.
What if we are anyway? Related. Anyway.
We were probably both created.
The James,
Did I say creative? I'd say related.
the Jameses, and then the Olsenses. Oh my goodness.
Oh my god. But anyway,
Is a triptych.
should I leave out like the one part with like the
You
thing
can
that
do
happened?
whatever you want.
Okay. Okay. My guy is.
Tell them as much or as little as you feel
If
comfortable.
it's not going to come up and play, tell it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Otherwise, why did you write it?
Well, okay. My guy's name is
Shade.
Boom. Wow.
my guy's name is Theodore Jackson or Tonar Jackson or TJ, and he is a surfer who was born in Tonar Jackson. It's a real '80s slang word that I didn't make.
Gnarly.
Yeah. And he grew up in the beach town of Cocoa Beach, Florida, and he was a surfer, and his parents both worked at NASA, and then that inspired him to join the Navy, and he was flying his plane one day on the... hold on, I'm getting distracted. I'm getting lost in my own character story.
So why did they fake the moon landing?
This is going to come up, isn't it?
That's the one part I can't figure out.
But in one of his training for like character...
You're gonna walk into a sound stage in New York and actually find the moon landing set, and it's gonna be like...
That'd be pretty cool.
Or he's just gonna find like.
It was my greatest masterpiece.
He's gonna find a set piece.
It's
of
also
a
where all the
rocket.
bodies from the movie are stored.
But anyway, yeah, he learned to fly planes and became a pilot. And then during one of his training days, he crashed into the ocean, had to eject, and then he got attacked by a shark. But he didn't see any fins and other stuff. And then he woke up, and then he was discharged because he was so physically damaged. His entire right side of his body is covered in scars, and he has a little circular scar under his cheek. And he's going on to New York on the second year anniversary of this event to try and forget about it because he's been doing nothing that entire time, and this is his vacation. And
So
hopefully
is he-
it doesn't get worse.
Is he like sworn never to go back in the water? Or
Yes,
something
he is.
to that effect?
He has. Ooh, I wrote down the phobia of it.
Yeah,
He has thalassophobia, which is specifically the fear of deep water,
That sounds.
and ichthyosphobia, which is
I
the
got-
fear
I
of
think I
swimming
got
with
that
fish.
What? So that was the question I had. This circular scar, like, is it like a perfect circle?
It's like
Is
sort of like a circle. It's just a weird mark that he got from the encounter with
Like
the
a
thing.
crescent.
It's like a suction cup.
It's like a suction cup circle.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted
That's
to clarify.
Yes.
Yeah.
How close to tentacles was it? All right.
It was.
It was. I think it was, but no one believed me. But
It
anyway.
should be noted that his phobia is significant enough that he doesn't take baths, and he actually
Whoa.
even avoids taking showers. Like,
No, he.
What,
Oh
really?
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Wait, how do you get clean? Baby wipes?
He doesn't get that clean.
Oh.
My appearance.
No.
He's a surfer.
Tonar is gonna be a
no.
real name.
Well, he used to be
He's gonna be
attractive.
real
But
gnarly.
my appearance is 30, so I was like, okay, how do I make him look ugly? Let's destroy the right side of his body and make it into a
wait.
shower.
are you one of those people who halfway through the season, like, takes the bun out and takes off your glasses and suddenly you're beautiful?
No, he
And the
literally
male
like
lead falls in love with you?
like
It would
makes
be-
a
it would be very
cocoon
80s.
and like
Cologne
That
is
happened.
80s bath. Is an 80s bath.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, you just wear a lot
Yes,
of cologne.
that's definitely it. But yeah, he's a beach bum and he's going on to New York vacation.
Cologne, hairspray, cigarettes.
Yes. Oh yeah, that's right. The smell of cologne and cigarettes is like
And
all you need.
hairspray.
Yeah.
It reminds me of all my
Good
business
match,
trips to the
anything.
Middle East.
Oh, and he's kind of like a fat McConaughey.
Oh,
I didn't think about how he looked.
a
but
fat McConaughey?
because-
So like a McConaughey.
oh
Oh!
McConaughey, hey.
Nice.
Wow.
Look, Matt, you're a great
Wow.
actor, but come on.
Wow.
Wow.
Hey, he has an Oscar, doesn't he?
I love that.
Don't talk about his Oscar.
Hey, Suicide Squad also got an Oscar. Does that
James
also
just
make you mad?
Lit the Molotov cocktail and set that bridge on fire.
Matt,
Now
bring it.
Matthew McConaughey is gonna unsubscribe.
we
I'm gonna
always
run into him in the streets of Seattle one day, and it's just gonna like punch me in the face.
we always bring up a celebrity during the Call of Cthulhu.
Wait.
Every Call of Cthulhu, we call out one celebrity, and one day one of them is gonna come after us, and it'll
Or
be
all
our
of
big
them.
break. Oh my god!
All at the
What
same
if Matthew
time.
McConaughey and Nicolas Cage and Adam Driver all know each other,
Please sue
and this
us.
is finally the
Oh, you also
their match?
last season was
Publicity.
James Franco.
No,
Sue
no.
us.
You were like James
Oh,
Franco,
that's
better
right,
be-
James
or
Franco.
we'll eat our shirt.
By the way, Adam Driver, I just saw Black Klansman. All is forgiven.
Okay.
Okay.
It was fine.
What needed to be forgiven?
He knows.
He knows what he did.
Was it the Japan one with the silence?
All right, we'll let that go. All right, so you're a beautiful man, Adam Driver. Okay, so and Semper Fi. Okay, so the conceit of this game is you will all be meeting at the very beginning because you have all had horrible things happen to you that are bad enough that you have sought out help. Back in the day, I used to watch this television show called Friday the 13th, the series, where they had to go out and collect all these haunted artifacts. And the way they did it was that they put an ad in the paper that says, "Are you desperate and need help? Call this number." And apparently, if you just put a number in the paper with no other information, only the most desperate will ever call it. And their theory was that was how they would select for people, because they didn't say what kind of help they would get, right? Or what your problem was. So that's actually what's happening here. Most of you in your backstory already have a very good reason. And we're going to cover that a little bit right here, just to get that out there in this first session.
There's nothing wrong with me.
So, and oh no, this is what we call a GM intrusion.
Yes.
But it's to sort of give you an idea. So Arlo Vincent's background, this is by alphabetical by character first name. So that's how this order is done.
Special.
Yeah, for my story arcs, I just use the character first names as my alphabetization. So Arlo Vincent has suddenly become very successful in his paintings.
Moderately.
It turns out his success is very odd because it seems like his successful sales come from a very weird and anonymous segment of the population, possibly even just one person. Turns out he just draws pictures of people who have just been killed in horrible fashion, and it turns out that he's beginning to suspect that one of the reasons that he's so good at this is that somehow he sees the moment when people die, possibly the moment their souls depart their bodies. He's been more successful recently because he's somehow coincidentally there when the events occur, and they seem to be happening more often. It is becoming unclear to him whether or not he's just very lucky about getting these things to be there at the right place at the right time,
Or you live in
or whether it's his very presence that's actually causing this horrific deaths to occur for him.
Or I live in New York in the 1980s. Which
Yes.
It's everywhere.
It is true. We didn't have a lot of OSHA coverage back in those days. Reagan was president, the beginning of the era of deregulation.
A lot of falling pianos.
Yes.
But
Oh,
it
yeah.
was, but it was
Every-
the Reagan era.
Seems like every television show had someone being killed by a piano in it, and they didn't have really good security for that sort of thing. Danielle Steele, her situation was when she was over in India, she did a lot of drugs. So she actually doesn't have a lot of conscious memory of her time when she was there. But recently she's been having more flashbacks. Except in her flashbacks, the oddity is that whenever she remembers groups of people or people she's talked to or had interactions with, they seem very much in her memory to be mannequins or fake versions of those people. And she can't shake the fact that every time she has a memory of her experience in India, more and more of them seem to be of these caricatures of non-human beings that she's spent all this time with. Even people that she saw every day and thought she had grown close to. Desmond Castle's problem is that he's been in New York trying to scope out opportunities for a new film and to raise money. But as he's been spending more and more time in New York, he's been seeing members of the cast and crew of the Drifters everywhere he goes. Like, he'll walk into a coffee shop and someone from the show will be just walking out with a coffee. Or he'll be getting into a taxi cab and someone getting out will be a member of that cast and crew. And every time he turns around, they're gone. But there are all these interactions. He's been seeing more and more of them throughout the city as he's been out and about.
Can't stay in Eastern Europe forever.
Jude Levine has had the same problem. As she's been working on trying to get her agent to get her better roles and things like that, she's been seeing David Cassup throughout the city. Mm-hmm. Like, getting out of cabs, sitting in cafes, walking, getting out of elevators. Mm-hmm. And again, in her backstory, when Judith escaped her cult, a fire occurred that killed every single member of the cult, and they should all be dead. David Cassup, who is the lead, was presumed dead. The fire pretty much destroyed a lot of evidence, and so they just presumed everyone had died. They found enough evidence to suggest that David clearly had been killed, but now you're not so sure. Robert Quigley, you are aware of a vague yet menacing government agency. You've been aware long enough to know that people have been in your life for a very long time, and not in a way that's good, very recently, that started to turn violent, which had never been before, which has sort of convinced you that you're getting close. They really have made it worth your while to stop looking. And now you think, okay, it's time to like bring in others and to suggest that maybe this is a real thing and to expose them into the light of day. Theodore Jackson. My note for you is that was not a shark. But
I knew it. Well, I don't yet, but yes.
my original thought
he
was that it
suspicious?
was a shark, but it was one of those few sharks that survived the horrible Chinese practice of like capturing sharks, cutting their fins off for the soup, and then releasing them back into the wild. But no, that was not a shark.
That was not a shark.
You don't know what it is, but the reason that this has suddenly mattered is because your 2-day train trip up to New York was far from uneventful. You had thought that you had shaken most of this. In fact, you were quite looking forward to this holiday. It was a change of scenery. As far as you know, there are no giant bodies of water adjacent to Manhattan that would trigger any of your problems.
No way.
But on the train trip, you've had 2 really, really nightmarish sleeps where you basically had dreams that were so real you swore that you were back in that scenario. And it would be bothersome as it was if it wasn't for the fact that every time you woke up, you were soaking wet and it was clearly seawater.
Ooh.
Oh.
Picking a little bit of kelp out of your hair.
You salty
Yes.
sea dog.
So
It's probably just because you haven't showered in a while.
You haven't even showered since that day. And it's just seawater still.
oh my god. This is why I hate going on holiday, like to Hawaii and stuff like that. That salt in your hair that doesn't go away for
He like
days.
turns his head over and like some sand comes out.
Yeah.
A little hermit crab.
It's someone on the train trying to bathe him. Like, we gotta do something about this fucking guy.
Theodore is literally a character from a Scooby-Doo episode. It was like,
He's like Pigpen. He has like a little cloud of dust following him when he runs around.
I don't imagine it being that bad, but it's definitely noticeable.
that would be ridiculous. So that is what's going to get you all together at the beginning. However, before we get there,
I do have one brief question.
Yes.
Is it one of us who formed the group or somebody
no,
else?
you've all answered this ad and
Okay,
said, oh, you
alright.
should come here at such and such a time. It turns out you're going to find out when you finally get together and meet each other that the way the group is sold to you is different for each one of you. So
Okay.
there are some of you who are probably not inclined to go to a group help thing, and you would have talked to someone who said, oh, you should come to an office, it's going to be very private, and we're going to be able to talk about things. Others of you are like, oh my gosh, I totally need to like talk to some other people, I need to feel connected again, and that's what you're going to hear this group is going to be about. Others of you might say, I need publicity, I need this to get out there, I need people to hear about this, and that's what you're sold. So when you get together, you're going to feel a sense of betrayal, but the group leader, the facilitator, is going to assuage your fears by revealing to you that they can help you more than you might realize.
Uh-oh.
Oh, goodness.
But before we get there, I have a question for you that's going to be quite relevant to how this progresses. I need to know where you live and how. What that means is I need to understand the circumstances of your living arrangement. You're fine. You're on the train just getting here. So you've only been in New York for a few days and you're going to be in some sort of public housing. However, let's start with you actually, because
Okay.
the where and how means I want to have a sense of what your income level is, how you're living. You know, are you just on a expense account? Have your parents just paid all your bills your entire life? Do you have something going on the side? Do you sell crack? You know, have you made so much money that you've banked it all? What are the circumstances and how are you living? Like, are you staying in a hotel? Are you in a tenement? Do you live in a giant mansion in upstate New York that somehow was paid for by the government?
Okay. Well, I lived with my parents up until I moved in, up until I went into the Navy and in Cocoa Beach, which is near the Kennedy Space Center because they work at NASA. And so after I got discharged from the Navy because my injuries were so severe, I just went and lived with them basically for 2 years and just like was in like sort of a hermit, but like still occasionally see people. And eventually he decided that he was going on vacation to try and like get him out of this funk that's been going on for like a year and a half or 2 years. And so I basically have enough money for hotels and what I need, but I'm not going to go out of my way to get expensive stuff or buy clothes or stuff.
But you don't have, so you have like your small government pension from your time in the military.
Yeah, I guess.
And because you were honorably discharged, you
Yeah.
still get money. but it's basically your parents who are keeping.
Basically.
Are your parents like sad and convinced that you're broken and that you'll just be living with them for the rest of your
They're
life?
sort of like busybody, like they love me, but they're sort of busybody parents because they both work at the Space Center, so they're both sort of there all day and they come back and then I'm like, hey.
So they still work at NASA.
Yes.
So they're part of this vague and menacing government agency.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Space. Likely story.
So we can talk this out a little bit, but it almost seems almost too fitting that I would maybe be staying at the Trump Towers.
Oh, that would be an appropriate
Like,
place to stay
if-
in 1982.
If the Trump Towers
It's a hotel?
seem, yes,
Oh.
yeah, like
They were respectable then.
the way that I would see it is that
No blacks.
the way that I would see it would be that I have a nice home back in Hollywood. I'm here. This is more of a business than, a long extended stay. I wouldn't, purchase a home here in New York. Dirty. But I would definitely
It's too dirty.
spend and smelly.
You're going to love my character.
But I'd probably stay at Trump Tower.
Okay.
So
Are you still well off? Like, has the Drifters just been successful enough that you're pretty much...
Well, so The Drifters is not my only film that I've ever made, but it is the best and most well-received film that I've ever made. All my other films have just been sort of average. Like, I've not made any losses in the film industry, but nothing has met the level of success that The Drifters has gotten me. So I have quite a bit saved.
Okay.
I do have some tastes, but I also have to have my money. So I'm not going to spend all of my money.
Of course. More importantly, are you readily recognizable on the streets?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I would say, like, as recognizable as any, like, director at that time would be.
Sure.
Like, I would almost, like, I'm not like a George Lucas, Steven Spielberg kind of recognizable. I'm like a John Carpenter sort of recognizable.
Okay.
So it would have to be some sort of level of, like, knowledge to know
So you would
that it's
be
me.
all the rage at a Comic-Con, but at a
Yeah.
usual walking through Times Square, most people would not immediately know who you were.
Yeah, I'm not like an actress or a model,
Right.
but I would have some sort of, like,
Some nerdy guy
Yeah,
at a
I'm
coffee
not a
shop.
model anymore.
Okay,
Too old
fair.
for that shit.
Robert, how are you doing?
I live near enough that I can get there, but I did receive a large sum from the government.
It was a
supposedly.
one-time payout.
Yeah, it
right?
was a one-time payout, but it was like, it was large enough to set me to get me through college and everything, and so yeah, I make like a modest living as a professor.
Oh, you owe. Okay, so you have a job
I
that
do have
you
a
actually
job,
go to.
Yes.
Are you
Mm-hmm.
okay at that job? Are you one of those people who like
okay.
cancels class a lot? It's like,
I do cancel it sometimes.
Wait, you're a professor?
Yeah.
I didn't pick up
Sure.
on that.
No, I just came up with it.
Oh, okay.
what do you teach? Is it civics?
What do I teach? In trying to prepare the youth to be able to
Communication.
understand the scale of wrongness of this world. I guess
Well,
it
if
would be-
you can think about it, that you don't need to know right away. So if you want to give it some thought, that's like if you just made it up, you don't want to.
you teach, like, civics.
That's what I was guessing. It's
Sure.
like, oh,
Sure, civics.
okay, that's fair.
Or like journalism.
Ooh,
journalism.
yeah.
You teach at the
Yes.
university level, right?
That would be
Yes.
good.
Investigative.
Ooh, NYU
journalism.
Yeah.
or like
sure.
Columbia.
Not the biggest one.
Okay, okay.
It's small.
All right.
Maybe a
NYU is
connection
fair.
between you two.
There's a lot of fluffiness at NYU that you can get away with.
Yeah.
That you probably couldn't get away with at Columbia. Okay,
Let's do
so
that then.
so you have a reasonable income such that you're not like destitute and on the verge of homelessness, as so many conspiracy theorists are.
Makes a surprising amount
But
of
you're
money
on your
to make
way.
conspiracy
There's
Don't
not a
you
lot
worry.
of money
Yeah,
in
no, I'm
conspiracy
definitely-
theory.
He's
on
the
my
gentleman's
way
conspiracy
towards that.
theorist.
That's why so many of the
Result.
windows are covered in newspaper.
Canned
One is to
tuna.
prevent people from spying on them, but number two is like you really just can't afford drapes. It's like they're
And you can read.
Yeah, so my living situation has been so since I escaped the cult. I was aged 16, and so before I was immediately like put into like the foster care system, I had the option to see if I could be considered an emancipated minor, because I'm 16, and because of the fact that I grew up in like an environment where there's a lot of homesteading, I'm very self-sufficient, and I was able to convince them that I can live by myself.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so once I got an agent, I was able to be set up with a very, very, very modest apartment. Very not great. But as I gained some success and moved up in ranks, I now have a comfortable, trendy flat in the Upper West Side.
Oh, okay.
And that is where I currently live. I am 22.
Excellent. Okay.
And I have always made the choice to live alone. I never want to live with another person because I lived in a huge community environment, and
Yep.
it creeps me out being in the same living space as other people.
That makes perfect sense. Oh, we got distracted before Robert finished. Where do you live, Robert, in terms of physical space that you are in?
A small New York apartment. I
Okay.
don't know, near enough that I can just get there via subway.
Sure, that's very easy. When you say small, are you talking like a 1-bedroom, very simple?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, very small.
fair enough. Okay, Arlo.
I'm on the upswing financial wise, but I'm still kind of hanging on the edge of that somewhat starving artist lifestyle. So I live in a trashy brownstone apartment on the southern side of Manhattan. There's a mattress, a canvas, and newspaper covering the windows and walls.
Oh,
Nice!
That's
Oh, shit.
about it.
interesting.
There are several canvases, actually.
So,
And there's also a place on the street where I park my Audi Quattro.
oh my gosh. Wow.
You drive in New York.
Yeah, I drive in New York.
Oh my god.
He's one of those people.
Oh.
So since you're in a trashy brownstone, who are your downstairs and upstairs neighbors?
I think my downstairs neighbors are a pair of, they're like two roommates, two kids who like go out partying frequently, and I'm like the cool old guy who lives above them and shares weed sometimes.
Yeah, how old are you?
32.
Oh, okay.
So, shares weed with them sometimes, and then the upper apartment is owned by this sweet old lady, Mrs.
Oh.
Bixby.
Oh.
Yes, she's
Mrs. Biggs.
Mrs. Bixby. She always has tea cookies.
Does she like you?
She doesn't really care for my hard rock lifestyle.
She just wants you to sober up
Which
and
is-
take care of yourself. She's worried about you.
That's how she sees me. That's not at all how I actually live. But she's like, oh, that Arlo boy, always getting into his shenanigans.
Just wait till you bring Teddy Smellington home with you.
Exactly.
Teddy's smelling.
my name is Luca. I live
No,
on the
it's
second
TJ
floor.
or Tonar.
Good old
not
Tonar.
Smelly.
It's pronounced Tonar?
Yeah,
Because
because
I was reading the whole thing, I was like,
Totally
Tonar.
gnarly.
He's totally
Totally
gnarly,
gnarly.
dude.
Totally gnarly. Tonar,
Yeah, that's
man.
my 9th grade math teacher said he's in California and
I
Indians. He
was
said people
so-
said that occasionally.
can
Wow,
also
we're so clearly hanging out with the wrong
Tonar.
Colorado in high school.
So I call
It's Tonar, man.
Call
That's
you-
what you
They were
say.
definitely not on the chess team with me.
you Sonar.
So
Dang it, I should have been a submarine guy.
during the course of my lifetime, my parents have actually started to tighten the reins on my freedom. So when I was younger, I was a respectable young lass, very good in my studies. And so I basically got to do whatever I wanted. It wasn't until I got arrested in India that they found out that I was up to shenanigans. And basically over these past couple of years, I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, usually at my parents' house. I have to check in with them, and if I'm not, I have to verify where I'm going. She will send people to spy on me, my mother specifically,
Wow.
if I'm not in the
Intense.
right place. Now that I am
Mothers and daughters.
Are they the
Not
type of wealthy
disgraced.
elites that actually have private investigators on retainer?
I mean, they bailed her out of a lot of things.
I would yes. Well, yes.
Listen, sweetie,
Yes.
you're an
They
Mm.
would. But they didn't feel that it was necessary until
I'm not gonna waste it.
until they realized what a hooligan their
What did they
Well,
think
they
you were
thought it
doing in
was-
India?
Modeling, right?
Following.
modeling
And they were
Modeling
okay with this? Because
and
modeling
and,
has historically
and
been...
journalism,
Oh, okay.
modeling and writing more. Because I've always loved writing and music.
Hmm.
It's not early enough for the Rajesh Pranam.
No, it's just that in like the 70s and 80s, there was a lot of like young ingenues going to India, but that was usually code for like some sort of rehab, and so
How ironic.
yes, so
The reverse.
James, what was your car called?
That's an Audi Quattro.
Okay, I just wanted to look it up.
I literally
How old is
Googled
your
famous cars
31.
from the 80s and picked the dorkiest looking one.
There you go.
I drove a Yugo one time. That was quite exciting. Almost died.
I think it's
How old is your character?
Displacing
31.
So, so your stories are
I'm actually curious.
semi-important. It will come up later on, but in this particular case, it is important because I was hoping one of you would have picked the appropriate living arrangement for this to happen. So I had mentioned this before to a number of you before, but I think this applies most appropriately to Robert. So your apartment building, there's a floor on it that has 2 extra apartments. And nobody believes that is a problem. Like the floor right above you, every floor has 10 apartments. And
It's like Doctor Who.
yeah, you basically have one of these. Your apartment building is you go up the elevator that's on the end, and it opens out to a floor with 10 apartments. There's 5 on each side, and there's like a window at the end of the hallway. And that's just normal.
And there's a door at the end of the hallway.
Yes. So
At the top
opposite of
floor.
where the elevator is, where the staircase is. So there's an elevator to the staircase, and then 5 apartments on both sides. The floor right above yours has 12 apartments. They're all the same size. All the proportions are the same. Nobody thinks this is a problem. Like you bring it up and you go, "Hey!" Like one time you were like trying to mention this to someone and said, "Oh yeah,
Or-
I live in 312." It's like, why is that a problem? It's like, but there are only 10 apartments. It's like, no, there are 12, and everybody says there are 12. That's how it's supposed to be, and nobody seems to think this is a problem except for you.
And are they all like occupied by regular people?
Have you knocked on all their doors?
I would have.
They all have regular families or individuals living in them. None of them seem unusual.
So I'm a little confused. Why is this weird?
Because it doesn't fit.
It doesn't matter. It
They
doesn't
can't
like.
fit in the space.
Yeah.
Because there's
two-
10 on the floor and this one has 12?
Yeah.
And it just doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah, the floor that has
It's
12
all-
apartments
yeah.
have
It doesn't
apartments
make
that are
any
the
sense.
same size
As
as the
floors of
apartments on
10.
the other floors.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
It's a something.
House of Levine.
It's a conundrum.
It's like a Winchester house.
Okay, and I have like sketchings in my apartment on,
Yes.
on the wall
Can I
of
come,
like
can I come
where.
measure your
And if anyone has ever,
apartment?
if anyone has ever seen these sketches, they think you're crazy. Like they're like, no.
Oh, if anyone
you're-
ever entered my apartment that wasn't me,
Yes.
they would be fucking.
Oh wait,
they would be terrified.
is it just papers and red string everywhere? It's
Yeah.
like,
It's very Pepe
Yeah.
Sylvia.
Do you ever show
back
up
to
at
back,
people's doors
red
and
string.
all,
and it's like a hoarder's
I
thing. It's
have,
like stacks of newspapers.
I
and,
have like a
clippings.
pet rat that I've like fed things that I like suspect. Where it's like, you know, I believe that the government is putting X in the water.
You test
and-
your food to make sure it's not poisoned with this rat.
Your
Things
rat,
like that. Yeah.
Your rat is surprisingly aware. Like sometimes you swear it's watching you and it's agreeing with some of the things you're saying to it.
They wiretapped the rat.
No, I agree.
The rat is a rat. It's a little rat.
Oh my god.
The rat is your closest friend.
The
Like,
rat is a mole.
What's the rat's name?
Yeah.
He's not gonna name the rat.
Or would you,
No,
would
you're
you not?
Cursive.
I suppose if you're
Cursive.
I suppose if you're poisoning the rat, you wouldn't want to
No,
name it.
what's the name of the rat from Harry Potter?
Oh,
Scabbers.
Crookshanks.
Scabbers, that's it.
Yeah,
Crookshanks.
no, I'll come up with one.
Crookshanks.
Crookshanks.
Wait, did you say you call him what?
What?
I'll come up with
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I thought you said
I was
you
just
called Pokemon. It's like what?
one.
That's Chargard.
8 years later. Hey!
You owe me
It turns out
money.
Robert Quigley is gonna be one of the wealthiest game designers in the world. It's like, turns out.
Yeah.
So if you're-
Rizzo.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Is that
Okay,
the rat?
that's fair.
Oh my.
Okay, yes. So actually, that's the driver that pushes you to eventually call the number, because once you get to this conclusion that you live in this crazy building with extra floors and you finally met
okay.
everybody and realize that nobody knows what's going on, now you're convinced something is happening. It was actually shortly after you made this discovery and was convinced that you now knew what was happening that incident where you were beat up at night happened.
Okay, yeah.